Hello and welcome to episode 77 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. I'm delighted to welcome back Georgina. Part one, we talked about stats and we talked about research. So if you haven't had a listen to that, please do. Incredibly interesting, lots of research going on, especially in UK and Ireland. For this episode, we are going to talk about the brand new website that you have launched, and we're also going to have an update on Ffredi. Welcome back.
Thank you. That's
So
great.
yeah, so the website that you have launched, www.hirschsprungsdisease.co.uk, something that you've been working on for quite a while. Roughly how long has that taken you?
I think it's taken me about 5 months, to be honest, from the first idea that I had it. Then I did a lot of research to find out if there's anything else like it because I didn't want to take somebody else's idea. Then I started putting together what I wanted it to look like. And I mean, the fact that hirschsprungdisease.co.uk was available to purchase shows how little information there is because I couldn't believe that when I typed that in. I thought it would have to be some sort of name, but literally all I had to do was search hirschsprungdisease.co.uk and it comes up as well as .com comes up as well. So I think that just shocked me a little bit and it made me think, right, I need to do this. Um, so for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is a website designed for anyone to look at really, but it's a parent-led resource, so it's not medical professional led. The idea being that information about Hirschsprung's disease is available to read, to look, to understand, because it's there's no one single resource to find your information. And I think that's a hard thing when it comes to getting that diagnosis at any point, whether you're an early diagnosis or a late diagnosis, and then starting to try and understand it and to be able to explain it to other people. And that whole experience is quite tricky. And often I think medical professionals, they do their absolute best to explain the situation you're in at the moment. And for me and other people, you want to know more, you want to understand more. And it's helpful to have that in one place. And that was my idea, was that I would start collating the information as I found it. Because there is lots of hospitals have leaflets and a bit of information, and you can find bits on baby stomas and you can find bits on what a washout is, but it's everywhere. And, there's no consistent, at the moment, there's no consistent sort of information that you get when you get your diagnosis. It depends what hospital you're at, depends what surgeon you're at, depends who gives you the diagnosis. And I just thought if we can standardize that a little bit, then that will really help families. Um, so that it's a collection of experiences from families all over the UK, um, so that people can find information, connect with each other, and find support as well. Because we have a fantastic Facebook group of families already that's been set up years before Freddie got his diagnosis. Tom's podcast obviously is fantastic. We've got the community planning group which has recently, come about so that we can connect. We had the Hirschsprung conference in Alder Hey. It's just helpful if we've got one place for all this information. Um, and also things that are relevant because not every experience of Hirschsprung's is the same. Somebody might have a stoma, but someone might never have a stoma. Somebody might be eligible to apply for disability living allowance, but anyone ever tell them that? And that was my idea, in that if we can put this information in one place, at least if you want the information, you can find it.
Yeah. No, I think it's I know I've put something on Instagram about it and I really feel that it's a fantastic resource. I've also it's I know it's hirschsprungsdisease.co.uk and it is very UK centric in terms of things that you said, like the disability living allowance and hospitals and this, that, the other. But I've sent it over to my colleagues at Reach as well because I think it's incredibly useful for them as well. It's it is UK centric to a lot of points, but there's so many um, fantastic stats on there as well that I think even if and symptoms and diagnosis and all sorts. that even if you're not from the UK, and I know there are many listeners to this podcast that are not UK based, I think it's incredibly important to just go and have a look and have a wander around that as well, because it's, yeah, as you said, there's so many bits of information out there, and to collate it all in one place in the format that you have is so useful. And like I mentioned in my post, if something like that had been around 30 years ago, my parents would have been absolutely delighted. And I dare say that the same for a lot of people. You know, to have this condition, as we mentioned before, to have a condition that not many people know, and even when you go to GPs, there are quite a few GPs that look at you and have certainly looked at me in the past and gone, what?
Yeah.
So to then have a website that's dedicated to our condition, I think is phenomenal.
Thank you. I think it's one of those things, isn't it, where I I mean it is UK centric, and that was deliberate because there are so many people all over the world who have Hirschsprung's disease and are doing the same thing, trying to find information and feeling pretty lonely. And I think that is really hard. I think it was so difficult finding lots of different information that was different in different countries. And that is hard to read and understand, right? Is that UK? Is this what we do in Canada? Like that was a tricky as well. I thought if we have something that's UK based and is parent led from the UK, it just sort of standardizes what we're looking at with pointers then to what the research, there's a lot of research in Japan I've been looking at, and different areas. Then and Reach is one of those fantastic organizations, and it then we can point in those directions, and we can just make it um easier to understand, to read the information and digest a little bit. So I hope those non-UK Hirschsprung's disease individuals are not too offended that it is focused on the UK. Because I still value you completely and utterly as well.
Yeah, no, I did just want to mention as well that it is, yes, it's .co.uk and it is very UK centric, but there is so much information out there that it is so important. And I did have an email back from Reach today saying how much they liked it,
Oh,
and
thank
that they are going
you.
to pass it on as well, because it's Hirschsprung's disease is Hirschsprung's disease no matter what country you live in.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
the way things obviously done in this country are a little bit different because we have NHS and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's so just a sort of to brief overview of the website. There are um, five parts of it. Sort of there's home information, support, stories, and then a contact us page.
Yeah.
Um, I think in terms of the stories, what's the sort of plan for that going forward?
So that is to collect people's individual stories, whatever their experience. Because like we have talked about on the last episode and like we hear about on the podcast, you've got 77 episodes where almost all of them now are Hirschsprung's disease. There's a good proportion of Hirschsprung's disease stories. And I think one of those things that's really helpful is being able to learn from other people, just hear what their story is and feel not alone. Because although everyone's experience is individual, there are lots of crossover where you'll go, that was my experience, or that was my experience. And I think it's really helpful if we collect that information. So some of the podcast episodes feature on, Tom's given me all the UK ones, the Hirschsprung disease, so I can put them on. And then we've got contributions as well coming in for people who feel able to share their story, no matter what it looks like, whether you had what we might call in inverted commas a relatively easy experience, whether you had a relatively complex experience. I want to know, because I think it's really helpful for families to know what your experience was like, and it helps other people feel less alone. And where possible, maybe we'll get contributions from medical professionals, maybe some Q&As, maybe some specific, traveling with Hirschsprung's disease, traveling with a stoma, um applying for benefits that are available in the UK, things like that. I think some deep dives on those areas will be really helpful, and that's what I hope for the stories as well, just to create some space for people to share those if they feel able, anonymously or with their name.
Yeah, yeah, that's important as well because I know that there are some people that certainly I've spoken to in the past who maybe didn't feel as comfortable to come on a podcast and talk about it. Maybe it was quite raw. Maybe they've only you know just had the diagnosis or they've been through quite a stressful or traumatic time, but feel more comfortable potentially in writing the story down,
Yeah.
or writing and sending it through anonymously. So it's really good that there are that there are options with that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so anyway. And over time I hope it grows as a space for people to read and look at those stories.
Yeah, most definitely. And then there is another part of the page which I think is incredibly relevant, the support page. There's all manner of organizations. I'm on there.
You are.
And
Yes, you are.
thanks for
You're
that.
number one.
Thought I'd just put that in. Um, but yeah, there is a support page, and again, there's some some parts of that page that I wasn't 100% familiar with, and I spend all day within the Hirschsprung sector. So I think that's another part that is so important because, like you said, when you have that diagnosis, nobody's ever heard of it. Your friends have never heard of it. GPs have barely ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Getting that support is just so important. And I guess one of the questions that I've got for you in that context is that is there an aim over time to maybe get this into, say, for example, older hay,
Mm.
so that when a baby is born with Hirschsprungs, they can then kind of say, yes, here's how you do the bowel washouts, and this is a stoma care, and this, that. Oh, and by the way, here's a website with loads of great info. Is that possibly a plan for the
That's
future?
that's the aim. I mean, that the ideal scenario would be that any parent in the UK who gets that diagnosis that their child has Hirschsprung's disease is pointed in the direction of the website, just in case they want to. And every hospital has different um, responses to this. So some hospitals give you a leaflet. At one hospital, there is a Hirschsprung's card you can have, which has got one side key signs to look out for enterocolitis, and on the other side has a medical alert card. So if you go to hospital, you hand it over to someone and it tells them what to do. I think that is really interesting. I have had conversations with all the hay so far. It does look like it will be possible. Um, as a first step. So that is really exciting. And you know, I hope that over the next month or so we might have some more information about that. But that is my aim because I mean, the support page is still so basic in its form. I mean, I haven't even been through and added all the support that's available for families with Hirschsprung's disease. But because it depends on your individual scenario, whether you've got a stoma, an ileostomy, or a colostomy, whether you are dealing with incontinence, whether you fit into being eligible for family fund, whether you want to have community, whether you want to listen to podcasts, whatever your experience, that's different and depends on your own scenario. So my idea with this page is you can look down this and look what's relevant for you. Do I want to listen to podcasts? There's a couple of podcasts that cover this. Do you want to follow people on Instagram? Follow people on TikTok? Do you want to look for a charity? Do you need money? What is it that you need? And can you find it in this page? That is my aim for this page. I still have, I mean, I launched a website and it is not perfect and it's not ready in terms of I wanted to do so much more, but I knew if I just, I just if I sat on it for much longer, it would take ages. So I was like, right, let's put it out there. Let's get some feedback. I mean, I actually sent the link to one of the registrars, senior registrars at Alder Hate when I was having a conversation with her with a half done page because I said because it was live, it's just hidden on the internet. I said to her, I was talking to her, we were having a conversation about Hirschsprung's and studies and things like that. And I said, well, I've started this thing. Have a look. So I mean, it was in its really basic form, but the information page was ready. That was the most important bit to me. So I decided to go for it, and I've got a list of 64 things I'd like to add over the next few weeks. But yeah, the support page is the idea that you will go and you will look down and say, right, this is what support I need. Do I need a Facebook group? Do I want to meet up with people? What do I want? It's going to be here. Um, so that you can look. And that is my aim. And to create some collaboration with the charities that you can get access support from. And, some of the links on those leaflets that you might get from the hospital, they're out of date now. Some of the
Mm.
links don't work. Some of the groups don't exist anymore. And I think that's pretty tricky. If you get that, if you get that, take that leaflet home and you look for those places and they're not there, that's hard. So my aim is that this is just an place to find that stuff in one place that we can add to consistently.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. It is it is live as well, so it does. Just something in terms of out of date. One thing that came to my mind is Champs. I still hear people who kind of say, "Oh, is Champs still going? Is it still around? Or this, that, the other?" And to my mind, I believe it folded or certainly isn't operating anymore.
Um,
But there are some leaflets out there that people get given where they say, "Oh, you can contact Champs," and you can't. So to have something that is constantly updated rather than a leaflet or whatever it might be that will just be out of date
yeah.
possibly in a few years, I think that's really important as well.
And I think Champs was a phenomenal organization that this
Mm,
they were operating for 10 years, but it's a lot of responsibility to run a charity. And I think and there isn't any Hirschsprung specific charity right now. And I think that's another point that is so prevalent, right? So I think but yeah, it isn't operating at the moment. It is closed according to Charities Commission, and I think that is one of those things that's super important to know. Where you can get support. People try and join the Facebook group or get support, or from there's other links out there as well. The groups that sort of don't exist anymore, or there isn't the support available there. So I think it's important that we get some up to date support available where we can point people in the right direction. I hope across the UK. Get into one first, and then we'll spread the word.
yeah, definitely. But I think you're right as well in the fact that there is a huge community out there. If anybody wanted any extra proof of that, I mean, just take a look at the Hirschsprung conference
Mm,
in when was it? February.
yeah.
I mean, it was tickets were sold out. I know you shared the link. I know Rachel shared the link. I know I shared the link when we found it, and tickets were sold out fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it just shows the appetite that people have for a specific Hirschsprung's community, which again, for people potentially outside of the bubble we're in, when you come across people who don't know what it is, to then know that there is a community out there um, that are that are sort of I don't want to use the desperate for more info, but to to have more of a community, more support, more info and education, I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, exactly. You've summed it up. I can't say the words any better. I think that's it. That's why we need it. So yeah. And then there's the information page, which is essentially like a Wikipedia page. I hope it looks like that. Of information from start to finish. And it's important to know it's editable. People have, I mean, I put it out for feedback and people, one, picked up on my spelling mistakes. Thank you very much for those. But also said that this wasn't my experience or I didn't get this. And that helped me because I only have the experience I know and the experience I've researched and the information I can find, which is hopefully helpfully linked all the way through. So if you find information about washouts, the link to the leaflet that I got it from is there. But also it's helped me amend things from will to may, can possibly, because I realize that not everyone's experience is the same, and I think it's really important that this becomes an evolving page, literally like Wikipedia, where we are updating it with more and more information as we get it. I mean, the genetic side of things, I mean, I'm still writing that section because I want it to be informative and correct. So I'm still working on that section. There's still bits I want to add, a huge list. But my hope is that you can go and you can read through and think, right, that's that. What's a feeding tube? I mean, I didn't even know what an NG tube before I had Ffredi was. I had never thought about taking blood from a baby and using heel prick or finger prick or toe prick. That, I mean, that I just assumed that all people took a blood test through your veins. I had never thought about people who have stomas experiencing dehydration. Um, I had not thought about sort of recycling through mucus fistula. Never even heard of that until somebody told me that that's what happens sometimes. I think, yeah. So that my that's my aim. It's to be evolving and to be something that you can go and find that information over time, and the helpful things like staying in hospital, financial support. I mean, I didn't know until recently that you can, if you have a stoma or you use extra water because of a disability, can apply for a cap on your water bill, so that you are not charged over a certain limit. I mean, who knew that was a thing? I mean, no one told me explicitly you can apply for DLA, you can apply for a blue badge. I didn't know those things. And I think it's really important if families know that information so they can learn from it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to say as well that everything you've written, there is the reference to it there as well, which is incredibly handy. I know you said that you are currently writing a part on the genetic side.
Yeah.
I imagine that will take you probably years and years and years to have, if you were to ever find any definitive proof or
Yeah.
any, because that is a minefield just from personal experience.
Part of it, I really wanted to make sure that it's factual,
Yeah.
because there's no medical profession involved in writing this. It is just me and then the experiences of other people informing what I find as well, and what I found on the internet. But so I've made a real effort to make sure that everything I have written about has a reference or says parents report, because you can look in the Facebook group and find people talking about situations. You can hear on the podcast people telling you about their scenarios, but those are individual circumstances. And right now, there isn't a medical link that says XYZ, but I can put it on there as a parent's report, or, you know, we find, and doctors that I've spoken to acknowledge this, but we find that some children with Hirschsprung's disease are more susceptible to viruses and illnesses in those early years for some reason, more likely to end up in hospital with a viral illness, whether they have a stoma or not. That's not written anywhere on the internet. That's just people's experiences. And if you look in the Facebook group, that you can see that that is an experience that people have. I've experienced it. So I included that on with the information that, parents find, some people find this is the situation that they're in. So other people know they're not alone. Um, and that it appears that over time the likelihood of ending up in hospital with an illness reduces, with Hirschsprung's disease, but there's nothing that says that anywhere. So my that was my aim, would just to be as factual as possible, but include the parent experience as well, so that we get both sides of that, because there's only so much medical info out there. Um, so yeah, so that's what my aim with this page.
Yeah. And I think we come at Hirschsprung's from the same angle with that sense, with it being parent led or story led or whatever it might be. Because I think often those are either as important or potentially more important than having a lot of medical info.
Yeah,
Having somebody's experience like, okay, I had this, this is the way I dealt with it,
yeah,
or you know, this is what happened to me, or this is what happened to my child, and this is what we did, and blah 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 blah.
yeah,
I think those kind of things are incredibly valuable because they are real life experiences. They're not somebody who, you know, studied it, or there are real life experiences. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
yeah. I think so too. I think so too. And that's the aim. And I hope that it is lasting decades. If there's a point in our experience where Hirschsprung's disease isn't, like I said on the previous episode, a daily discussion topic for us. At the moment it is, but maybe one day, hopefully the website will still exist. It can be passed on to someone else, and it can be continued to develop for years. that is the aim for it to always be updated and information, so that yeah, if I run out of Hirschsprung steam of information, that somebody else will be able to take it over and continue. And that's the aim in the future, that all hospitals give out this information, or at least a link to find it when they get that diagnosis. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, I'm incredibly glad that that you've put a lot of time and effort into this. And if people wanted to share their stories with you, there is a contact page on there as well.
There's a Google form you can fill in with your story if you want some prompts. If you want to write your story, you can absolutely do that and email it across. You can do it anonymously. You can do it with pictures. You can whatever you feel. And I have spoken to so many people that have either said, my story's not detailed enough to share anything, which of course it is. It's important if you feel able to share it and you want to share it, then to do so. But also so many families who've said, when I'm ready, I will share. And I think that's an important part, because I think the experience of being a parent with any complex medical condition is pretty traumatic. And I think if you're in those early years, it can be really stressful. And so there's absolutely no obligation to share. But if you feel able to put it all down and share, then we would love to have it, and to put it on there. So I've already got some coming in and some people contacting, really interesting. So hopefully it's shared. And I mean, my TikTok about launching the website, it's reached 100,000 views now, and there's people messaging me saying like I got a diagnosis last week, and someone else saying I didn't get a diagnosis, but I'm so interested that you did this, because when I thought that that was the diagnosis my son was going to have, I looked and looked, and I was trying to educate myself. And I think that's really important, that you can look and see.
Yeah, most definitely, definitely, and I think it's and you try to get it out obviously on lots of different platforms because as we both know that there are so many people with Hirschsprungs who just sort of, I mean, they contact you, they contact me as well, just sort of randomly saying, "Oh, I didn't realize this was a thing. I thought I was the, I knew I wasn't the only person with this condition, but I, I didn't know anyone else with it, and now I do, and now there's a community with it and a website and all sorts, which is fantastic."
I think that's great. I mean, I literally got a message from someone who messaged me yesterday and said, I've literally never seen anyone talk about Hirschsprung's disease online so far. And that just shows that we feel like we're in the bubble where we talk about it every day, but there are people that don't. And I think that's really helpful, to know that, that it's reaching people. So yeah, really helpful.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic, and long may that continue because I think it's, as I said before, I think it's a fantastic resource, and I think it's something that, even if I know you said you've got 64 things to add to it, but even if it was just left as it is now and nothing was added to it, it's still brilliant resource and up for all the time. And I think something like that is so, I mean, again, the amount of messages and the amount of views you got showed just how needed it was, even though there are other websites out there, but it just shows that there was a real need for it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's just a bit of a gap where we need it. That's
Yeah,
all. But yeah, I'm really grateful that it's had the reception that it's had. So now I
brilliant.
just need it to be picked up on a wider press scale. That's my aim, and to also get some of the companies that are involved in supplying washout equipment, because I mean, that's prescription basis, but the stoma equipment as well would be really helpful for that to be shared wider. So that's my sort of next aim, is one, to keep adding to the website, one, to keep raising awareness of it and the Hirschsprung's experience, and then get it into hospitals so that that information is shared, and go from there, really.
Fantastic. Well, I wish you all the luck with that, and obviously I'll do everything I can to help promote that if I can add some more stuff to it or add some more podcast episodes. I've got plenty more UK people who want to come on, so yes, you'll have a raft of emails from me very soon.
We'll keep going. I like them. I'm adding them. That's what we need to hear.
Fantastic. Now, another part that we wanted to mention, I guess your whole reason for setting up the Hirschsprungs website is your son Freddie. Now we did a part one, I think it was about 7 months ago, something like that, maybe a little bit longer, where we
Yeah,
talked
I can't
about
even remember when that was, Tom. Like,
it was episode 41.
okay,
Don't ask me why I know that off the top of my head, but I just do.
got great
Um,
memory.
and this is 77, so 36 episodes ago, however many weeks and months that is. Um, so we talked about his initial diagnosis. We talked about all of your thoughts and feelings. And again, if people haven't heard that, please go back, check that out. Really good episode.
Yeah.
And he wanted to just share a little update now that he's 1 year of age.
He's just, well, not long ago turned one. I mean, that just feels like a lifetime ago. When I last spoke to you, it was like he was 5 months old. Um, and that just, and he'd had his stoma, and we were like newly into the stoma world as well. So that was just wow. But no, we're a year into it. I think Freddie's doing really well. I mean, I'm so grateful. He is a happy, chatty, noisy, little boy who just smiles all day long, which is fantastic. The stoma as well has been brilliant. I mean, apart from the instances we had a horrible episode of norovirus in December, that landed him in the hospital for quite a while, both in our local and at Alder Hey. Then he's had a run of illnesses from February to March and once in April as well. So I think yeah, lots of lessons learned. I think it's one of those where it's like every time you encounter a scenario, you learn how to deal with it better. I think that's been interesting this first year. Um, but no, he's really happy. I mean, which is great. He is, in terms of medical side of things, we are awaiting an appointment to put a date in the diary for his next surgery. So I don't know if you go back and listen to the episode, you can hear me talk about what had happened. But essentially, Freddie was having washouts at home until he was 4 months. He went in for pull through surgery. It was sort of expected. I mean, unsaid, well, sort of unsaid, expected that he was going to have short segment Hirschsprung's disease because of the way he presented. And it turned out once they got in there that he actually has long segment Hirschsprung's disease. He had a really large portion of his large intestine removed, leaving 10 centimeters. And they still don't know if this 10 centimeters is all transition zone. So, for people that don't know, transition zone is where you have both ganglionic cells and aganglionic cells at the same time. So they reach transition zone, remove some of it, but they decided instead of continuing the pull through to do a stage procedure, which is putting a stoma in an ileostomy. They actually suspended his some of his small intestine and large what was left of his large intestine in a mucus fistula and a colonic blowhole. So he's got three stomas with the aim to make a plan further on. So that was where we were left. We had an appointment in January to discuss that, and we talked about what that looks like. And the plan going forward is to go in, do the biopsies on that 10 centimeters and beyond if needed into his small intestine. If there's only a very small bit left that's transition zone, they will take that away and carry on and do the pull through connection at his rectum with what large intestine is left. If for any reason that's difficult, either because it doesn't work right, or because he needs all of that colon removing, and then maybe even some small intestine. There will be various other things they do, which technically are called things like J pouch or Duhamel procedure, depending on what they decide in the moment. Um, Potentially, we discussed the idea of having a permanent stoma. I mean, that might not be set at that surgery, but we have to see on the day essentially, which is quite a daunting thing going into surgery, knowing that potentially we have to make quite a big decision in that moment. And I think for the surgeon as well, bit quite daunting experience. So that is the plan. They'll leave his stoma and potentially may move it, so it might mean a revision. His stoma is currently prolapsed, not dramatically, but it is at the moment. So I mean, and they may want to look at that when they go in, um, with the plan that once we know what it looks like, potentially reversal in another year. So when he's two, or we make the decision to leave the stoma for longer and then reverse at a later date. But they probably will try and avoid surgery between 3 and 11 because it's a really tricky age with understanding what's happening and movement of children. And yeah, unless it's emergent, I think they're going to try and leave those years. So it's really like before school or sort of secondary school age is really where we're looking at. So we don't know yet. We'll see what happens at the next surgery, but whether he's long segment or total colonic Hirschsprung's, I don't know. But the transition zone intrigues me. I've done a lot of research on that because that's interesting. But that's where we sit right now in terms of the medical side of things. So I'm hopeful we'll get a date for surgery this summer because I'd like to get on with it
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Whereas in January, I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I actually said in the appointment, I'm not sure about the next surgery. And I mean, reflecting now, I should have just said yes because I didn't know it's going to take so long to get to the next appointment to get the date. I would have been happy with it happening this week, really. I just want to get on with it now. But yeah, back in January, we weren't sure. We were hesitant, because it's such a big decision. Um, to make. But yeah, we've got a plan. So that's the plan. They're going to go in and do that next step. And then we'll have recovery, probably have another year, and then go potentially do a reversal and see how that goes. But we'll see.
it's good to know that there is a plan in place because I think again that's something that I think worries a lot of people where you kind of go, well, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this, and you've got five, six, seven options. So to have and I know there are still options to be ticked off or crossed off
Yeah.
with Freddie, but to have okay, we're going to look at this and then this, and this is how we're going to do it. I think, I guess that's possibly more comforting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty the next surgery has to happen. The piece of large intestine he has that's just not connected to anything other than his stomach um needs to be removed. It's got to do something with it. I mean, it's a risk for enterocolitis now or diversion colitis. And so something's got to happen. So it's good. And they want to do one surgery in his pelvis rather than do multiple surgeries. The more you go in, the more scar tissue you create, the more likelihood you've got damaging the other organs that exist there. And I think the plan is if they can do that one, we can go from there with a plan. At the same time, they will remove his appendix because if his appendix is down in his near his rectum, if that does ever become inflamed, they've got to go down there to get it, which is tricky. So that's going to come out as well. And yeah, I just think so. It's nice to have a plan. As always with the NHS, I think I'll be happier if it was a bit more speedier. It takes a lot of chasing. Um, they're incredibly busy, and that's no fault of anybody's fault at all. It's just when you're the one sitting on this side, imagine all these people waiting. It's just incredibly frustrating for everybody, probably on both sides of the table. So yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just overworked, understaffed from what I hear and what I think again from what we all know. I don't think you've got to be a genius to work to work that out, but it's just it is incredible. And I think you're right. It's frustration on both sides, isn't it?
yeah.
It's and I don't think there's an unwillingness to crack on with stuff. It's just they've got so much to do.
I agree completely. I agree. And Hirschsprung's disease is a particular condition and it takes experience and practice. Um, and we're going to have two consultants and, a senior registrar whose expertise is Hirschsprung's. That means, a lot of time and a lot of space to do it. It's going to be a full day surgery, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it now, which sounds weird, looking forward to surgery, but I think I'm looking forward to the next stage so we know what the next plan is. But equally, I think we felt like that because we'd had so much run of illnesses that we just want to get to the next stage, closer to stoma reversal, because Freddie's problem with illness and viruses is dehydration because he has an ileostomy. He has a high output anyway, which is controlled by medication that some days work, some days doesn't work. And I think the chance he all it takes is for like a little thing to knock him off and need to go back in. I mean, we're so lucky we have the amazing hospital that we can go to where we know the more you do it, the more you practice. You know what to say, you know how to explain it. you get closer, you get, get dealt with quicker, and it just makes things easier. Like I know what I'm taking to hospital. I know what to say when I get there to explain what's going on. I know how to ask to see the surgeons because it's their review that we need. And I know how to deal with that. It also has highlighted to us that our local hospital, despite being they're all fantastic, they don't always have the same understanding and level of knowledge about Hirschsprung's disease than they do at the specialist pediatric surgical centres. And I think that was something for us in knowing what points do we go to our local hospital, which point do we go to the surgical centre, and knowing that for ourselves rather than going somewhere and being frustrated. That's been helpful for us to know that. Um, so it's all learning all the way through. I know what I'm doing now. I know how to pack for the hospital. I know how to keep a bag. Like I know what to take. All those things that just sort of come in. Um, we're a regular on the ward, unfortunately. I remember going in once. No, when Freddie had his surgery, and one of the nurses said to me, "Oh, I've treated Freddie before. Like we know our regulars." I said, "Please don't say that. We've been here twice. That's not regular." And then now we are officially regulars. But no, I think yeah, it's. Uh, I feel incredibly lucky that we are under the hospital we are under
Yeah.
because they have clear plans and protocols for dealing with Hirschsprung's disease. Not that I've seen those, but I know because of the way things happen in the same order every single time we go, that it feels reassuring.
Yeah, definitely. And I know one of those times that you were in hospital was over the Hirschsprung's conference.
What
Unfortunately, you were able to make it down for a
for a
little bit.
bit.
I know
Yeah,
we did meet each other
we did.
very briefly
Yeah. I
at
mean, I
that
was
point.
so good. I mean, that the day before, Freddie was not quite. The problem with children with Hirschsprungs, and from what I hear from other families, it's not just my experience with Freddie, is that they look well,
Mm,
even when they're not. And they can present clinically well in terms of what their SATs say, their blood tests and things like that. Often, as a parent, you see the change in your child and you know they're not well before those things start telling you. So it can be really frustrating when you're on that side of it where you know something's not right with your child, but they're not clinically unwell enough yet. That is like a real, and I think that's why, and our doctors are amazing at saying this. If it feels wrong to you, then come and see us or let us know, because I think that's really like it, you as a parent have the right instinct about your child if you feel like something's off. Um, but the night before we went to the to the conference, he wasn't quite right all that day, and I was going, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. With me and Freddie were coming, I was like, I'm not sure, like if he's going to be well enough. Like I'm really gutted if I can't go. And then it was like 6 p.m. and he was unwell, and I was like, right, we're getting in the car, we're going to Alder Hey. Oh, what happens to be there at the same time as the conference. So I did pop over for the afternoon. I caught up with some friends that I've made in the community, which have been life-saving for me. I met you, Tom. I met Zoe. She came and saw us on the ward afterwards, which was amazing. And I saw like the Q&A and I saw some of the chat. So that was really lovely. I'm just gutted I didn't do the whole thing, but yeah,
well, hopefully down the line,
there'll be another one.
the I really I genuinely I know we talked about the website and everything as well, but I really think I don't know whether it would be a yearly thing. I don't know whether it would be a biennial. I don't know whether it would be take place in a hospital or something. But the aim, and as part of why I set up the Discord as well, is the aim is to get something along those lines fairly regularly.
Yeah,
Because I think it's wanted, and I think there's so many people craving community, craving info, craving support. Hence why your website is incredibly important. That I think it wouldn't be out the realms. I know Ellie is wanting to do the buddy system. I know she's working hard on that, and I think I think it's something that people want.
I think so too, and I hope that we get to do it again, and I hope, and I I'm sure we will do lots of social meetups, but I really enjoyed the medical involvement in that because I think
Mm,
Hirschsprung's disease, it is a parent and child and adults with Hirschsprung's disease. There's that part, but there's also the medical professionals who know and have seen Hirschsprung's disease. And I think their input is really valuable and important. And they don't have all the answers. And I think sometimes there may be people feel that maybe expect them to have, and they don't. I think it's really helpful hearing that,
mm.
hearing from them, discussing it, having their involvement because yeah, I just really think that that's super helpful. So I really hope that we have another conference like that soon. I hope that takes place. Um, and it's just nice to see other parents and hear about them and to talk about the whole experience. So I think I hope we get to do that again.
I do too, and if I've got anything to do with it, we will do.
Yeah. I know.
Hopefully we will. But no, this has been an excellent catch up. Really, really enjoyed having you on, listening to the website, listening to how Freddie's getting on, and obviously send him all the very best as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I can hear him
and
downstairs chatting away, making some noises. So
it's so good. He's such a happy little chap, isn't he?
he is so happy. I mean, he wasn't happy that day at the conference. I did bring him down for a little bit. We went for a walk and I came down. He wasn't very happy, but he was really poorly there. But I mean, on the whole, when he's well, he is such a happy, smiley. And that's one of the things I'll say, like for us as parents, it's so frustrating when someone medical professional and not those that are experienced with Hirschsprung's, but will walk in and go, oh, he looks alert and well. And I'll go, yeah,
Mm,
but he's not because he's different to how he is day to day. And I think that's all I'd say to parents is you know your child best. You know when something's not right. And that's why it's really with you. You know what you're talking about and it's important that you get listened to. So push if you need to get the help
absolutely.
that you need because you know your child best.
Absolutely. I'd always advocate for parental instinct. It saved
Mhm.
my life. So I will forever be indebted to parental instinct, and you have my full support on that all
Yeah.
the time. But no, thank you so so much for coming on. And just very quickly for those that didn't hear part one, if you haven't, please go back and listen to it. It's really good. Um, for those who haven't heard it, where can people find and follow you?
Yeah, I'm at Live with Georgina on Instagram and TikTok. And it's hirschsprungsdisease.co.uk. That's where you'll find the website and all the info, and you'll find links to everybody that talks about Hirschsprungs and all of that kind of thing. So yeah,
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on.
thank you for having me, Tom. It was a pleasure.